did a little tool cleanup just so we have space to work. We got bike stuff, right? So the Access, history of this bike. My friend Aaron and my friend Dominic live together. Dom rides a lot, like a lot, and he has tons of components all the time from upgrading, and he just keeps the old stuff. So Aaron bought this aluminum Access Chinesium frame and put a bunch of nice components on it. Well, nice components for a decade ago, which were nicer components than my 20-year-old Miata. So I had him ride the Miata one day, and I rode his newer bike, and he was so appalled at its performance that he donated me the Access. So since then, it's been receiving more donations. So I got a wider set of front bars from my friend Grant. Dominic just sent me this RockShox Reba that he just had rebuilt. So I got to take good care of it, get it installed proper. And I already had this front wheel from him, and I switched this disc to the rear, but we're going to switch it back to the front. So Grant, again, donating more stuff, is donating a disc brake setup for it that he doesn't want because it runs on dot fluid. It's one of the older ones. So I ordered adapters for that. I changed the bottom race over, and it's got a bit of a gap. So I got spacers. This is just pinched on so it wouldn't fall out overnight. Got my zip ties on so the engine / bike stand won't go anywhere while we get to work. So let's see. What else? Yeah, adapters. So the rear adapter will be into the bike shop tomorrow. So we'll be able to put the rear disc on. We'll put the one that Grant's donating on the rear wheel because that'll stay there forever. And then we'll move that 160 millimeter to the front wheel. And this fork will run 160 without an adapter. So then when the front adapter comes in, I'll put Grant's 180 millimeter on the front wheel, put the adapter on, and bump up just a tiny bit. So when the brake stuff gets in, his goes through the frame. So he's going to have to cut the tube. We'll have to bleed the rear. He's going to donate me all that equipment to borrow and get it all set up, and we'll make sure to film it for funsies. And then I got new grips because I had Auris on it because I had a shift thingy off a different bike. It's gotten a lot of parts over the years. So we got blue because blue and orange, right? So we'll kind of keep it to a theme. It used to have this Manitow, how do you say it? Mani, there's an I, Manitou. It had this fork on it, so it was red fork, blue frame, orange handlebars, and I love it. It's the greatest. But now with the black fork, it's going to look, I don't know, I guess a little more clean, a little more concise. You stick to the theme now. So we got that. We have 5 millimeter carbon fiber spacers. So, we'll get those in, however many we need. Probably, looks like we only need 2, right? Whatever that gap was. Yeah, 2 would fill that. So I think what we do is we put in 3 and then see how we like it. So I already raised the bars a ton with this adapter. Dominic trips him out, right? He's afraid of it, but I'll give a good look at that when I unbolt it to put the spacers on. Yep. Last thing, got to move the cassette from the old wheel to the new wheel, so I got a tool for that. And Grant doesn't think that this, with that tool, can spin it off. He thinks that I'll need to hold it with a chain and use like a breaker bar. So we'll find out. Okay, so here's the old wheel with the cassette on it, with the dirt, like, see all the dirt, right? I haven't touched it. I didn't try to loosen or anything crazy like that, right? And with these, when you tighten them up, the threads are on the inside of this nut. See? Oh, wait, for the rear. So, see inside there? That's where the threads are. It's on the inside. So, and they're fine threads, so they'll probably tighten up pretty well. And then you can see how easy this turns left, right? And then, of course, it locks up when you turn right, so they're easy to tighten. First try, I'd like to see if it comes off without me even having to hold it with a glove. Let me get the tripod. Okay, so I'd imagine I do have to hold it a little bit, but I definitely won't need some crazy chain tool. We'll see. I don't think it moved any. Nope, there we go. Didn't even have to hold it with a glove. You owe me a beer, Grant. Oh boy, I almost just grabbed this and ripped it off thinking that it was one piece. It's not one piece, it's a bunch of pieces. So I think if I hold it together, that should be all of it. I'll come back and look. Well, the cassette had this guy, little tiny hex, kind of holding all of them together with these back two. And it looks like this is just all grease, I hope. It's probably just greasy buildup. And then these plastic spacers. So it's just kerosene and my parts washer, so everything here should be safe. So we'll go ahead and scrub these off, and then we'll stack them back together with our little bolt, just the way they came, before we put it on the next wheel. All clean, they're looking pretty good. Then don't worry about which way they go, because see there's like these little lips. That's what helps the chain slide up when they're going from a smaller to a taller ratio. So they're always going to stack like that, right? Not the other way around, because you need that there to help the chain. If you put them this way, it just won't work because they're just flat. I mean, it'll still work, but it won't be as nice. Another thing I got to thinking about, which makes sense to me, is that these two are probably separate because they're going to wear the fastest, right? If you're pedaling at the same cadence on the same front sprocket, these are getting, 3 or 4 times the rotation and the wear of the bigger gears. So this whole stack goes together as one big piece, and then you can just buy these two and replace them. And it looks like I didn't clean that one well enough. There's still a bunch of gunk in there, so get that one back inside. This one looks good, so re-clean that, get it back together. So this will be the moment of truth. Got my thumb where that bolt hole is, and there's the small notch right there. So if we line the bolt hole up here, it should just slide on without any fuss. Yep, just kind of fits in there. And we've got 2 more left. And there's no spacer there, so that tells me that this lip needs to go in. Plus this has a little notch cut out, which looks like that would be a little helper for the chain as well. So small notch. Same thing with this one. There's the small notch. Oop, and that seems to fit nice and tight. And then the nut. And that's fine threaded. Should be able to put it on quite a bit just by hand. Make sure it's not cross threaded. So there's the start. Now, I was curious what torque these were, and this one actually has it on it. It says SRAM on this side. There's an arrow for the way it gets installed, and it says 40 newtons. So let's go get our torque wrench. Alright, wrench set to 40 newtons. It's not a ton of torque, and especially with the fine threads, that'll cinch things up quite nicely. It's probably one of those where it kind of keeps you. There we go. It's got a little locking teeth too, so it kind of chips along. That'll be good. It's all set. Now, can't put this wheel on until we get the rear disc for it, which Grant will be bringing over this weekend, and we'll have the adapter tomorrow. So we'll move on to something else. Uh-oh, we got a problem. So this is torqued like it's supposed to be, but look at all that slap. So I think this is 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This wheel might be for a 9-speed. So I don't know if we can adapt it, or if we just find a cheap 9-speed cassette, since our teeth are a little worn. Sucks to have done all that work, but now that we torqued this, let's try taking it off again with the impact, just to double prove that it can be done without holding it. Maybe I got lucky and it was loose. Nope, there she is. 2 in a row. Okay, I'm just threading this on to keep it in place. Apparently if the hub is for an 11 speed, then it's for an 8, 9, 10, then this cassette would have worked. Any of the 8, 9, or 10 speeds would have worked. but it's for an 11. So I need a 1.85 millimeter Shimano spacer to fill that gap. So I'll have to get one of those ordered unless magically somebody around here has one, but I really doubt it. A lot of guys don't have anything in stock. Okay, so try to do this with one. Well, what I need to do is I need to put one of these in there first and then see if there's space. You know, there's obviously 2 is going to do it, right? But I don't even know if we want to push 3. So you can kind of see where the stem ends up. And I think that just the way this thing is, even though it's really strong and I trust it and I've used it for a while, I don't want to start bringing the tube down, right? I want to have as much engagement as I possibly can. Well, actually 1 looks like it would work, but I'm going to go ahead and do 2 just in case. I want to make sure that my bearings aren't sloppy. So we'll put 1 more in there, but 2 will be our limit. I think that'll be fine. Okay, so there's a 5 millimeter bolt down in here. You know, it pinches everything together and it preloads this bearing. And they don't really have like a torque spec, right? Because every single one's different. But what you want is you don't want play. What I like to do is put my fingers on here, so I'm touching both surfaces, hold the front brake and rock it back and forth with my weight and see if I can feel that moving or not, because then it's really easy to tell if there's play. We can't do that till everything's back together, so for now I just did it, you know, hand tight. I'm not tightening the pinch bolts. I'm just going to let it flop all over the place because that'll hold it together while we do other work on it. We can get the bars back in place and we can put the front wheel on, so that'll be exciting. We actually we could probably put it back on the ground and do it, but we'll not worry about that till later. But it rained a bunch, and I'm not going to work on that car in my wet driveway. That's silly. So the lines aren't even here yet. So it's just not a huge priority. I do want it out of the driveway, but whatever. So we'll work on some bike stuff. I got some new goodies. I grabbed this because it does a Presta valve and it has a gauge on it. I figure to top off my tires before riding, one of the things I absolutely hate is putting the little adapters on the Presta valves and using my old beat up floor pump. So we'll go ahead and we'll mount this up on the frame permanently, so we just have it along and it's not in the backpack. And we'll use it, you know, we'll get plenty of use out of it. And then we've got 2 spacers because I forgot what size. I thought I needed the 1.85 millimeter, but now I'm not so sure. So we'll find out. This one's a little thick, probably. This one's definitely way thick. This is 4.5 millimeter. So we'll try both of them out, see if one of them will work without any modification. Maybe we'll have to sand this down some. We'll find out. This is just a freebie they had in the back. He's like, hey, take this with you. Greg, with more of his mechanics, donated it to the cause. And then we got this adapter for the rear. Yeah, this is for the rear. So the side post goes to normal post mount. IS, I think it's called. So I'm not familiar with disc stuff at all. So, but this should go here or here. I don't know which direction, but I bet there's something that shows us. And on Friday, Grant will be over with the rest of the disc brake parts, and I'll be set up 160 front and rear until the adapter comes in for the front, and I'll switch to a 180. Okay, so here we go. We're only, we're not quite tightened all the way down, but close enough. So we have, this isn't moving. There's no slop in it because it's pinched up against the edge, and it shouldn't be pinched up against that completely. And then here's our, our gap, basically, because it slides over its buddy there, but not the one below it. So looking at that, it's not that much. Probably needs to be 1.85. This is a little big. It means our 4.5 is definitely way too thick, but that's aluminum. We could possibly machine that down, but I think this plastic one's going to be the ticket. Because here's my socket. There we go. Because really what's going on is this nut has a bit of engagement, right? But we don't want that all the way down. We want it can be up a little bit like this, because that guarantees that the whole stack presses against the back. So if we pull it back apart, take that plastic spacer we got and just set it in there. It's kind of loosey-goosey, but I guess that's just how it is, right? What's the aluminum one feel like? Yeah, and it doesn't fit perfect either, but probably I'm thinking too much about it. I'm used to stuff at work that's like super precise, but precisely broken and doesn't work. Okay. Together. Where's your Oh, I'm backwards. That's why. Now this is that key part, right, where we have, you can see how much engagement there is. That's what's going to be driving it. So we want to make sure that those are going to actually grip enough, which it definitely does. And it doesn't touch the top, so actually that looks really good. I think we're going to be fine. Alright, I think the wrench is still set to 40. Good, how are you?
Good. Let me just set this here. I got 2 more.
Yeah, it's fine. Here, I'll come grab one.
Right, that's
Yeah, but used to, sometimes these lines will come and they'll be a box like this tall. So they'll take this section and they'll fold it over like 4 times.
really.
And then you gotta like bend it back straight before you put them in and stuff. So
Oh, jeez.
I'm glad they're like this. Probably a pain in the butt. At least they're light.
Right, yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say, brake lines are one of the most irritating things. Just taking them off there.
Yeah.
Most of the time they're gonna break if they're rusty at all.
Yeah, that's why I was like, they're all coming out. Order stuff now. Get your car out of here.
Right, get it ahead of time.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
You too, man. Is that it? Does it click? Yep, okay. Clicked. It's almost hard to tell with the way that ratchet's on. You know, it's self-locking little feature, if it's the torque wrench popping or not. But yeah, looks good. There's really no play in it. Yeah, it doesn't slide up and down. I think any play that's there is going to be that bearing. So yeah, I'm happy with that. It'll work. Okay, now here's the adapter. The adapter itself is threaded. And it looks like this larger end goes, I think it's supposed to go down. Yeah, so it ends up going in like that. I'll need more hands to bolt it in, so 1 minute.